Good morning, everyone. Allow me to start by saying, holy crap. Let's try that again. Holy crap. Just when you think it's July 30th, July 31st, dog days of summer, right? Not so much. Not so much at all. So, Major League Baseball's trade deadline is coming up today, July 31st at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But that didn't mean that some teams couldn't wait. So we got a pretty big trade. Not the biggest superstars in the world changing teams, but we got a pretty big deal between three different teams, and we're going to break that down. There's also not one of those Major League Baseball shoving matches, because that happens sometimes. Guys get off the bench, they may jog out from the bullpen, bench is clear, and, some words are said, there's a lot of posturing, and, everyone turns back into a grade school little kid and goes, hold me back, and doesn't really want any part of anybody. And there was a little bit of that, but we'll get to that as well. And it seems like the news that was going to be big early in the day got pushed by the wayside by this trade and this fight. But we're going to touch on CJ McCollum's contract extension, a surprise stepping down by the head coach of the women's national soccer team. All right, watch out for trucks. That's part of the podcast. Don't get run over by a truck. That is lesson number 1 for today on the Dave Talk Sports podcast, episode number 30. That's right, we're getting there. And I am your host, Dave Ettinger. I am of CBS Sports Radio Network. That's where I just left a couple minutes ago. It's now 6:25 Eastern Standard Time in the morning on Wednesday, July 31st. If there's time, we'll talk about a little Andrew Luck. We'll see. So, Trevor Bauer has been part of the trade rumors in Major League Baseball. Was part of the Cleveland Indians. Now has been, as I like to say, exiled to a place that may win in the future, but for now is not a competitive team. And that's the Cincinnati Reds. Also, no offense to the people of Cincinnati, I don't know how many people want to live in Cincinnati. Not me. Not that Cleveland's probably much better, and I know I'm disparaging large groups and numbers of people, because I'm sure people love those cities. LeBron seems happy enough, or was happy enough, because Cleveland was his home, is his home, will always be his home. Yeah, okay. Yeah, me too. So, I don't think these are attractive places to be. But Trevor Bauer, we talked about him the other day. He hurled the ball over the center field fence. There may or may not be something wrong with him psychologically. He may need professional help, and I'm not kidding about that. I'm not trying to make fun of him. I think there is a screw that's permanently loose. It's not just lost under the couch. So, we'll see what happens with that. Some people, when they get sent to a team like the Reds, like Sonny Gray, figure out how to succeed again because they're no longer in the spotlight of New York. Now, Cleveland's not New York, but Cleveland is a competitive team, and I bet you can name more players on the Indians than you can the Reds. So, it's an interesting trade. It's a 3-team trade, and it's based around Trevor Bauer. Okay, he ends up with the Cincinnati Reds. It's also based around Yasiel Puig, Franmil Reyes, and some prospects. It's interesting. It's an interesting trade. Puig is an expiring contract. Franmil Reyes gets moved from the Padres, so he and Puig both go to Cleveland, so they get a big boost in the power department. And it's interesting because as much as Trevor Bauer has been rumored to be traded for quite some time, the Indians are in the heat of things. I think that they are going to be a competitive team and actually have a chance to make some noise. Now, their offense got a lot better, but with no Corey Kluber, you're relying a whole lot on Shane Bieber, Mike Clevenger, who's been banged up for part of this year. So it's an interesting move in the pitching department. So we'll see how that works out. Now, for the Reds, they get Trevor Bauer, who is under contract for one more year. So it's not really, not really is not the right word. It's not a trade for this year if you're the Cincinnati Reds. It's, trying not to run over a garbage man. Not that I can fit around this garbage truck, so we sit and we wait, and I get to look at you guys. So I am Dave Ettinger. As I mentioned, I work at CBS Sports Radio Network. That's where I just left. You can find me on Twitter at DaveEttinger2. You can please subscribe and comment below this video. This is the Dave Talk Sports YouTube channel, like I mentioned, episode number 30. You can also find me on my Facebook page and website, both named, what else? Dave Talk Sports. Now, we're not going to talk about the Yankees, but as you know and can see, I am a huge Yankee fan. I have been my whole life. Today being the trade deadline, we'll see what they do. With the starting trade market being pretty weak, do they still acquire a starter like a Mike Minor, who's been banged up, who hasn't been that great, but is having a good season? Or do they just bolster their bullpen and say, well, maybe this is the way to go? Or do they do nothing? It's a very interesting dynamic that they have to worry about right now. We'll see. For the Mets' sake, I don't know what the hell they're doing. I still don't know what the hell they're doing, and we'll have to see what the rest of the moves are going forward. Now, what's better than being stuck behind a garbage truck is being stuck behind a garbage truck that is either not working or the garbage men have forgotten how to use. We'll get there. I just want to go home. But they'll figure it out. Anyway, now the Trevor Bauer trade is interesting, right? But nowhere near as interesting as Yasiel Puig's last night in Cincinnati. So he gets traded at 10:13 p.m. Yet he remains in the game. Also, not very intelligent. The last thing you want is, I just completed a trade, but it's not official yet. You know, there's always physicals and things pending. But what happens if Yasiel Puig gets hurt in the last couple innings in the game? Now, I know you can't have imagined and envisioned what actually happened towards the end of that game, but it was about as wild as anything you've ever seen. So we're talking about Yasiel Puig's former team now, the Reds, where Joey Votto is, and you're talking about the Pittsburgh Pirates. Now, if you're not a Pirates fan or not a huge baseball fan, maybe you don't know that the Pirates have a reputation and is less than stellar. They are known for not just throwing inside all the time, not just brushing people back, but throwing up and in, near the chin, near the head, as they say in baseball, a little chin music. And teams like the Reds, like the Cubs, like other teams around the National League, don't particularly like it. I wouldn't like a 98-mile-an-hour fastball coming near my chin either, so I can't say that I blame them. Now, the question is this a culture that's being taught in Pittsburgh? Some players and managers will claim that it is. Reds manager, who got into part of this scuffle that we're going to discuss, thinks that this is something being taught in Pittsburgh and Major League Baseball needs to intervene. That's what he said. David Bell, the manager of the Reds, that's what he said in his post-game interview / press conference, that Major League Baseball needs to intervene and do something about teams like Pittsburgh throwing at people intentionally all the time and being taught to do this on a consistent basis, saying it's just not right, and I'm concerned for my player safety. Now, you get Amir Garrett. He is a pitcher. He's been a starter. He's been a reliever. He's a guy who has great stuff, throws pretty hard, has just been underwhelming. He's underachieved. He's one of those guys with great raw stuff, but just never really puts it all together and figures it out. But he's pitching out of the bullpen right now for the Reds. So he's on the mound. Doesn't like the different things that have happened. What's going on here? Light's green. That means we go. Now I get honked at, even though the person in front of me forgets how to drive. That's how it goes. Anyway, we make a left. We get out of their way, and we keep it moving right here on the Dave Talk Sports podcast, episode number 30. This is the Dave Talk Sports YouTube channel, and I am your host, Dave Ettinger, and I work at CBS Sports Radio Network, where I work the overnights, and I'm on the way home. So you join me on the commute, wherever I may be going. So you got Amir Garrett. This is a tough guy. Like, not a fake tough guy, not a hold me back guy. This is a guy who legitimately, and I didn't know this about him until last night, who legitimately wants to throw down. He wants to beat you up. And I did not know this about him. And I'm not saying I appreciate it, because I don't think anyone should fight. But if you think that you're being thrown at, or your players are being thrown at intentionally up and around their head area, and nothing's being done about it, then I guess in baseball, with this unwritten rules, you got to take matters into your own hands. It's kind of like the Wild Wild West, and it's I call it a dynamic. It's just very interesting. It's kind of a culture in baseball. So Amir Garrett legitimately sprints off the mound straight at the Pirates dugout and gets met by not one, not two, not three. I feel like it was a LeBron, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh introduction speech. Not one, not two, not 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to win 8 championships. Yeah, okay. Yeah, me too. It was like a sea of Pirates. A sea of 8 or 9 guys who just, after Amir Garrett bum rushed and throws a punch that was an absolute haymaker. And I bet for his sake, he wished he had actually landed it, because I don't want anyone to get hurt, but would have knocked somebody out cold. It would have been like a top 10 candidate for knockouts in boxing or UFC or of all time in street fights or wherever. Because this man threw a haymaker. Just missed. And then gets swallowed up by a sea of black and yellow, gold, whatever color that is, jerseys from the Pirates. And then an all-out brawl ensues. You get manager-on-manager crime between Clint Hurdle and David Bell. That's always fun. A little gray beard boxing. Why not? You get Yasiel Puig, again, has already been traded when this happens. And lucky for the Indians, also potentially lucky for the Reds, he doesn't get injured. But this could have been really bad. Now, I will say, Yasiel Puig charged at Mr. Crick of the Pirates and had a clear punch, shot, whatever you want to call it, at him. Didn't take it. Not calling him a coward, not saying he's not tough, because his arms are twice the size of my legs. So Yasiel Puig is one guy I'm not going to insult. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. But he did turn into the hold me back guy. Now, maybe it's because he is smart and he didn't want to deal with a suspension. He didn't want to deal with any additional problems with the trade. Maybe he was looking forward to going to the Indians. Maybe he knew he was traded already. I don't know. I can't get inside of his head. But he looked like he didn't exactly want to get all the way involved. He didn't want to stick both of his feet into the water. He just dipped a couple toes in there. But again, I'm not messing with Yasiel Puig, and I don't recommend that you or anybody else do the same. So, this is the part where we enjoy the sun glare. One of these days I'll be smart enough to figure out how to not deal with this, maybe leave later or stay next to the curb for a little while. We're almost done. We got a lot more to talk about, but we're almost done. So, Yasiel Puig, just right in the middle of the scuffle, and he's just lucky that he doesn't get injured. And this, I'm telling you, I will post a video on my Twitter page at DaveTalksSports2. This is just an absolute brawl. It was something to behold. It really was not your typical baseball brawl. And I tell you, I listened to the Pirates radio call. It was really well done, because you don't see this every day. You don't see this just about ever. And it was just completely out of the blue. Like Amir Garrett sprinting into 8 or 9 Pirates. Not the smartest move in the world, but it made for an entertaining evening. So, moving on. CJ McCollum. You know him as a shooting guard for the Portland Trail Blazers, and he's going to stay that way. Signed a Supermax extension for an additional $100 million, as Austin Powers or Dr. Evil would say. He and Damian Lillard, they're not going anywhere. They're going to keep running this back. Hope that their duo is good enough to win. They've added Hassan Whiteside in the front court. They also have Nurkic if he ever gets back and gets healthy. They also trade Evan Turner for Kent Bazemore, which is an absolute upgrade. We'll see. I don't think they're good enough in the West, but they are always somewhere between the 3 and 6 seeds, and they usually win the first round. Really good series against the Nuggets last year, and then gets swept by the Warriors in the playoffs, but we'll see if they can take it a step further in the new look Western Conference in the NBA. Really happy for CJ McCollum, though. Seems like a really good guy. He's a Canton, Ohio native. And he talked about, I heard some of his comments after this extension, just talks about being a guy from Ohio. Didn't always have much growing up, but now not worth, but signing a contract for over $100 million. Just unbelievable and awesome. I got to root for a guy who works his tail off and can earn over $100 million. Now, like I mentioned before, a little surprise, Jill Ellis, the head coach of the U.S. women's national team, who have won back-to-back World Cup finals, stepping down. It is, in my opinion, shocking, surprising, any adjective you want to throw out there. Unexpected. I didn't see this coming. I don't think anybody did. And it was a bigger story in the afternoon when it came out, but it got absolutely swallowed up by Trevor Bauer and the brawl, the same way that Amir Garrett got swallowed up by the Pirates. So it's interesting. No word as to exactly why yet. She hasn't exactly spoken on that. So as soon as I find out, you'll find out. And last but not least, because it is almost football season, Andrew Luck, trying not to take a page out of the Kevin Durant playbook with a calf strain, and he's hoping it doesn't turn into an Achilles injury. And he even said, it's a lower leg injury, I feel it around the ankle, but it's a calf strain. There's been no damage shown to my Achilles, and that's not going to be an issue. And I'm not going to come back earlier than I need to avoid a major injury like Durant saw in rupturing or tearing his Achilles. Basically what Andrew Luck is saying. I think it's really smart. We know Andrew Luck is a smart guy. Even out of control, crazy beard Andrew Luck. This funny commercial. Those are funny commercials. Those commercials are very funny. That's a big truck. I'm going to slow down. I'm not going to drive into that truck. After you, sir. Anyway, you guys join me on my commute home. It's always fun. It's always interesting. I have a good time. I hope you guys have a good time. You get my honest opinions, my honest takes on whatever's going on in the sports world. You get a big trade, and there's many more trades to come in Major League Baseball today, with the deadline being less than 10 hours away. Pretty excited. Want to see what my team, the Yankees, do. I want to see what else the Mets do so I can continue to make fun of them. Not because I dislike them, just because they're an easy target and they make me a lot funnier than I actually am. See if there's any more basketball news. I really think we're just about tapped out on that. And see if we can get an explanation to why Jill Ellis is stepping down now. We'll see. So, on that note, I am Dave Ettinger of CBS Sports Radio Network. I am the host of the Dave Talk Sports podcast. This has been episode number 30. As you can see, it's a beautiful sunny Wednesday morning at 6:43 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm almost home, so that means it's almost time to go to sleep. But that also means, see ya.